Me and Max later moved in together when I was about 21, right after we had been dating for almost 2 years, when he then came up again. By this point, we had moved in together a very long distance away from my ex, but he somehow found out where we lived, and he started to send some of his friends to come knock on my door in the middle of the night, sending me death threats through the mail, and much more. This continued for a few months, until one day we discovered that our dog, who back then was just a puppy, was barking at the window like crazy after we came home from a date night. We thought that she may have just been barking at some animal that she may have seen or something, and we just went to bed shortly after, since both of us had to wake up very early for work. Well, at about 2:30 a.m., we woke up to our dog barking again, but now she was barking towards our living room. We've always kept our bedroom doors slightly open so that she could walk in and out whenever she wanted. I woke up Max, and he found it odd too, since she seemed to be staring at something in the living room. He got up, and I stood up from our bed as well to see what was happening, when Max then yelled, "What the fuck are you doing in our house?" And that's when I heard it. Footsteps that quickly turned into running steps, when Max luckily shut the door and then screamed at me to call 911. After about 10 minutes, the cops arrived, and we heard a loud commotion through our door, and when one of the officers asked us to open it, I saw a face that I never wished to see again. It was my ex. We had to go to the police station, and we were told that he had gone through one of our windows. We lived on the first floor of our apartment building, and he had hid around the house and then actually waited for us to get back. The scariest part of all this was that he had a lot of bad stuff with him. He had a hunting knife, duct tape, and a small handsaw as well. He was arrested that day, and he was given a sentence of 2 years for breaking and entering. In our country, the sentencing system is very broke, and people who do horrific things get surprisingly light sentences. I ended up placing a restraining order against him, and me, Max, and our puppy moved further away. But this story does have a happy ending. Me and Max got married last year, and just 2 months ago I gave birth to our daughter. We live in a smaller town far away from my ex, and I really hope that I never have to see his sorry ass again. I'm a 31-year-old female from Germany, and this happened to me in 2014 during and shortly after my stay at a mental hospital. Before I begin this story, I need to give you some background information about me so that you can understand the state that I was in at the time. I was originally born in Bosnia, which is a small country in southeastern Europe for those who don't know, but came to Germany during the Bosnian War in the 90s. My father was a raging alcoholic back then, and he only married my mother for the little money she had, and he made it very clear that he preferred us far away from him. Years of mental and physical abuse, bullying at school, and also caring for my broken mother and older brother while maintaining the charade of the strong child made me a wreck, but I kept it all bottled up. Until the year of 2014, that is. After an especially nasty breakup paired with bullying at work, I finally exploded. Nervous breakdowns look different on everybody, but for me, it was spending my days crying, without eating, without sleeping or leaving the house until my mother finally noticed and got me hospitalized. I was later diagnosed with PTSD, major depression, and borderline personality disorder. Anyway, sorry for the long backstory, but I need people to understand that I was at my lowest, and therefore I didn't see the gigantic red flags this boy basically threw right in my face. Let's call him Kevin for the sake of this story. I met Kevin online during my second month in the hospital. He seemed like a nice guy at first, but our conversations soon got darker. He started telling me all about his problems, that he too suffered from depression and other mental illnesses, which was fine with me, and it even made him more attractive somehow. We texted a lot, and we got along great. At this point in my therapy, I was allowed to go home during the weekends, so Kevin and I decided to meet up the next weekend. In my vulnerable state, I really couldn't wait for that to happen. To my disappointment though, he had stopped replying as soon as I got home. I waited all day, but I heard nothing of him until the next day when I arrived back at the hospital. He basically just told me that he was sorry for making me wait, that he was very busy and whatnot. I checked in with the nurses and I went out to the little fenced yard that housed the animals, like all the goats and rabbits, for therapy purposes. It was 7 p.m. and it was already very dark outside, but I preferred a little privacy to reply. While texting, I had this uneasy feeling of being watched. Looking around, I couldn't see anything or anyone, but I heard a slight shuffling not too far away. I tried brushing it off as the animals just moving around, but I was suddenly very aware of just how far away from anybody I was, so I headed back, followed by more strange noises, I might add, which I ignored. So fast forward to about a week later to when Kevin and I finally met up. We had a good time. We talked a lot while sitting in my small apartment. He wasn't really giving off any strange vibes just yet. I mean, aside from the mysterious guy with mental health issues. You know, the ones which I liked, of course. We met every week from then on, and he even picked me up from the hospital a couple of times. At the end of my 3rd month in the hospital, I was finally discharged, and I guess you can say I went back to my normal life, working full-time and taking care of my dog, Isaac. This was also the time when Kevin began to act strangely. It was pretty subtle at first. I would just catch him looking at me from the doorway after I left the room to get something from the kitchen. But soon, I would catch him peeking behind the shower curtain while I was in the shower. I told him to stop that, as it made me really uncomfortable, but still somehow felt his presence while I was in the shower, or a stare while changing. He would also start to act really mean towards my dog. Isaac isn't a very social dog, and he usually ignores people mostly. But Kevin would push him away at very unnecessary situations, like whenever he was heading towards me, sometimes even insulting him, and even acting jealous. I tried to talk to him about all this, but he just brushed me off, like I was just imagining this strange change in his behavior. The final straw and nail in the coffin was the evening where Kevin told me that I should get rid of my dog, just so he could be the only one looking at me from then on. Yeah, strange, but I knew he was dead serious. At this point, I had enough of him, as well as his strange and creepy behavior. I tolerated it for a while out of fear of going through all this recovery alone, but now he was just making me uncomfortable, and I was honestly getting scared for my dog, as he was really giving off these bad vibes of bad intention, so I broke it off. He eventually left, and I felt a huge relief. It was like I escaped from some potentially dangerous situation. The stalking began around a month later. Every now and again, I would see his car parked near my work or my place, with no one inside. I was really just annoyed at first, but I started to get more anxious about it. I got the same feeling as the one I had when he would stand behind the shower curtain while I would walk home from work. I even saw him one time disappearing behind a corner. I knew it was him every time though, as Isaac would start growling in certain directions. But of course I had no proof, so there was nothing I could do, and I just walked home as fast as possible. Also, he seemed to be relatively afraid of dogs, so I knew he would keep his distance, making it somewhat easier to endure. This all went on for almost a year, but it did eventually stop. Almost, at least. Years afterwards, I still got cryptic messages from him from time to time, but I never did see or feel his presence again. This was a long time ago, but I still won't go anywhere without at least my dog by my side, even after moving far away from this creep.